All right, well, I think we hit 1 o'clock, so we'll get things started here. First, I want to thank everyone for joining us here today. I'm Matt Murphy. I am the Vice President of IBISWorld's Commercial Banking Group. I'm joined today by Kelsey Cleary-Hammerstedt, who is our Senior Relationship Manager in our Commercial Banking Group and works with a number of our Canadian clients, banks and credit unions. The title of our webinar today is Understand Your Customer's Market and the Local Economy. And this is something we're really excited to talk about in tandem with a product that we're rolling out in the US as well. And that product is more state and provincial information being available, because something IBISWorld has heard for a long time from its banking clients is the need for more information about customer industries at the provincial or local level. Before we jump into some of that stuff, though, just a couple of housekeeping items. We will be recording today's webinar, so after the fact, everyone's going to get an email with a recording of the webinar, so stay tuned for that. If you have any questions along the way, please feel free to drop them into the questions box. We're going to try to get to as many as possible. We are also going to try to keep it to a clean 30 minutes here, so if we don't get to your questions in the call today live, we will follow up with everyone after the fact with answers to any questions that you might have. I'm going to throw up in a little bit here email address that you can send any feedback to as well. We're going to be talking about the importance of provincial and local information today, but also if you have any feedback on the product that Kelsey's going to be showing us, we'd love to hear from you. And lastly, any attendees today are going to have an opportunity to request a free trial of IBISWorld's new provincial industry collection. So if you want to take the information for a test drive, whether you're already using IBISWorld or maybe you're not using us yet, but you do want to trial some of our information, you'll have an opportunity to answer a poll later on in the webinar to get a free trial of our provincial information in IBISWorld writ large. As I mentioned, this is something that we're really excited to talk about, because it's something IBISWorld has been asked about for a long time. But before we get into that, because I know a number of the folks on the call are already using IBISWorld, but maybe a few aren't already using us, I just want to start with a quick couple notes on who IBISWorld is overall. So IBISWorld, in a nutshell, we're the largest provider of industry information for banks and credit unions across North America. We've been around for over 50 years. These days, we work with 7 of the 10 largest Canadian banks. We also work with banks and credit unions, financial institutions of all shapes and sizes. So by no means are we only working with the largest ones, but certainly happy to call those folks at those 7 institutions our clients. These days, we cover over 400 different Canadian industries or different NAICS codes within the Canadian market. Each one of our industry reports comes along with a risk rating report that actually looks at the risks inherent in a particular industry over the next 12 to 18 months specifically. And what we're going to be talking about today, or focusing on today, is this last piece here, which is the fact that we now also have, beyond those 400 national Canadian industry reports, 4,000 plus different provincial industry reports available for the Canadian market. So why is having more provincial or more local information important for financial institutions in Canada? Well, what we've uncovered, working with a lot of our clients in Canada, is there's a couple different ways that clients or customers are being segmented within financial institutions. And firstly, at the high level, that's by the industry or NAICS code that customer operates in. But then secondarily, what market or geography does that customer operate in? Sure, 2 businesses might operate within the same industry, but if one is operating in Alberta and the other in Ontario, they're going to be impacted by different tailwinds or headwinds within their individual provinces. They're going to have different strengths and weaknesses based on where they're located in Canada. So really the goal of the conversation today is to talk about how more provincial and local information can help you have better conversations with customers, but also hopefully on the credit side, also mitigate any risk associated with the geography that your customer operates in. Now, before I go any further, I'm just curious to hear, because I know we've got a big group here of folks, working in the Canadian market. I'm going to put a poll up on the screen here, because I'm just curious how readily available, industry information is at the provincial or local level right now. So you're going to see a couple options put up on the screen there. So if you don't mind answering that, would just love to hear before we dive any further into this, whether yes, information at the provincial or local level is easy to find, no, it's not, or maybe sometimes depending on the geography you're looking at or the industry you're looking at, the information is available and other times not. So if you don't mind answering that, I can share some of the stats with us in just a second here. See a bunch trickling in. Looks like pretty big majority saying sometimes, a number of folks saying no, and then 11%, now 10% saying yes. So I'm going to close this poll out and just share some of the answers with everybody here, just so we have that up on the screen as well for everyone to take a look at. Let's see, share that. You can see it looks like something that is available sometimes, but maybe not all the time. And that's really what IBISWorld has been looking to solve with this new provincial collection, is being able to more easily have that information regardless of what the NAICS code that you're working in is, or regardless of what province you're operating in. So as far as business development goes, we really like to boil down how IBISWorld helps banks and credit unions into what we call the 3 Ps. And the first P in how we help with the business development angle is prospecting. We want to help banks and credit unions better understand what industries are concentrated within their specific market, but also on top of that, what industries in their particular market are low risk, what industries are capital intensive and more likely to be in need of a variety of products, whether that's commercial loans, whether that's equipment financing, whether that's asset-based lending potentially. So prospecting is a big piece of why having more local information is important, because you want to find the industries that are operating within your specific market. The second piece is preparation, being able to prepare for client-facing meetings with more information about that industry at the provincial and local level. You want to have more meaningful conversations with customers, either when you're developing a pitch or even if you're working with a long-time client, being able to deliver that additional value of talking to them about what's going on in their industry within their particular market is just going to set you apart from any competitors that might also be reaching out to them. Lastly, on the business development end of things, we help with pre-screening. What a lot of commercial lenders and relationship managers have told us recently is that even before they hand a deal over to their credit team, they want to understand, how their customer compares to their peers within that industry. And that's looking at things like financial ratio, that's looking at things like cash flow, profit margins, and just making sure that their deal has a high likelihood of approval, or at least being priced appropriately before they, move the deal through the loan cycle there. Now, of course, once the deal gets to credit, we help in some other ways. We have a lot of underwriting teams in the Canadian market using IBISWorld for these purposes. The first is benchmarking, similar to pre-screening that the relationship managers are doing. Underwriters want to understand how a single business they might be lending to, how that business compares to others within the same industry or within the same geography. They want to understand the external drivers. What are some of the outside factors at the national or at the provincial level that might be impacting that industry? These things like tax rates or disposable income within a particular province might be outside the control of an operator within that industry, but nonetheless are going to impact that industry operator. And lastly, we've got local market analysis, and that's really just meaning to help you flesh out your credit write-ups with not just having information about the industry as a whole, but more information about that industry at the provincial or the local level. So just making the credit write-ups more meaningful, making them more accurate, because you've potentially found information that's not just at the national level, but also at the provincial level. I'm about to hand things over to Kelsey, and she's going to share her screen and take us through some of the types of provincial and local information that's available for the Canadian market. Before I do that, I just want to let everyone know, again, we're looking for feedback. This is a product that IBISWorld has launched fairly recently. We want to talk about the importance of having more provincial and local information as a whole, but if you are interested in a trial, be sure to answer that later. Or if you have any feedback for us, things that you like about the new product, questions that you have, anything like that, please feel free to email us at commercial-banking@ibisworld.com. Without further ado, Kelsey, I'm going to hand things over to you and take it away.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Matt. Let me see. Get this showing the correct screen. Give me 1 second here. Okay, perfect. Does that look okay, Matt? Right screen and everything? Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much, Matt. And yeah, as Matt mentioned, I'm Kelsey. Hello. I see some names here that look familiar, so happy to see some folks that I know and some that I don't. Welcome. So
I've been with IBISWorld for about 6 years, and I've been fortunate to have the opportunity to actually develop a specialization working with many of our Canadian financial institutions. And in the past 6 years, the most frequent comment that I've heard, regardless of the size of the institution or where they're located, is just that we love IBISWorld's Canadian data and we just want more of it. So I'm excited, here to say that we've really answered the market, in this way, and this information is here. So just jumping over to this list, we actually cover all 10 provinces and 3 territories in Canada. So it's over 4,000 reports, which is kind of mind-blowing. So it's about 350 reports on average per geographic area. And as you'll see, we're covering a similar segment to our national reports, right? So we're looking at different sectors. Reports are organized by NAICS and looking at the 5-digit level of the NAICS. So for the purposes of just looking at a report to get a flavor of the information, I've decided to show the dentist report. So I know this is kind of like a touchy subject, so I don't know why I keep showing this report, but all jokes aside, profit in this industry is high, and it has been consistently so. And over time, this is still one of the most frequently viewed reports. I think given universal healthcare in Canada, and there's lots of investments in technology in this industry to be competitive and provide different specialized products. So starting to jump in here, commonality you'll see throughout the report is our focus on establishments, revenue, employment, and wages. And here, we can start to see how a theme that we're going to compare the province with the country. So looking at Alberta here, for example, where we're seeing that some of the establishments are actually higher than the national average. So good to be aware of different trends, local trends compared with national trends. And then the current performance outlook section, I think is great that we included here. So it's one of the most popular sections of our national reports. And I've heard from clients so far that this is just very valuable for loan narratives and projections and putting together different financial statements for different internal due diligence. And then scrolling down here a little bit, I've definitely gotten some great feedback about how you can compare provinces in this section here. So if we start out, it's just going to show Alberta. Oh, jumping forward a little bit. There we go. We have Alberta versus Canada, and then you can actually add another province. And so this is really helpful if you're looking at different M&A analysis, right, or competitor analysis. If someone's looking to go into a new area, right, they might not just care about specifically being in one province versus another. And so this allows you to really have better visibility into those sorts of things. And then I
think there's an opportunity there, Kelsey, too, because there's certainly institutions we work with that work across a number of different provinces, and then others that we work with where they only operate in a single province, but their customers might be in 2 or 3 different provinces. So depending on size of your institution and kind of the geographical spread of your customers, you're able to compare those different markets pretty easily here.
No, I love that. No, thanks, Matt. Please continue. I love it. And over here, you can actually download this data into a picture, into a CSV. So that's really useful for being able to manipulate the data internally in Excel, or even actually share it with clients and prospects, and helps you to better be able to speak to a customer's specific area. Jumping into this key external driver section here, I've heard from clients, this can be helpful if you're putting together board reports or executives come to you with questions on how different current events might affect a portfolio. Like we've seen things like inflation and supply chain disruptions in the past year. And here we even are going to now have more Alberta specific trends. So not just at the national level, but now drilling even down more into that local level. And gotten some really great feedback on this section so far. I've heard a lot from clients about how they might use government sources or different websites, but essentially it's very frustrating to gather some of this information. And now, we've compiled it kind of more concisely and thoroughly. And that, some other sources might provide, they might say regional and it's Vancouver for all of BC, or, if you're looking at Saskatchewan, they might provide Calgary data. But we're really truly covering this at a regional level, being able to look at, Edmonton versus, Edison Hat and Brooks to really, look at some of those smaller regional areas. And then scrolling down here, we just have, similar to our national reports, more key statistics and annual change for more of that deep dive analysis as needed. And I want to jump over here, actually, apologies for the scroll, but now something that we're offering also is economic profiles at the provincial level. So in addition to all of these industry profiles that we have for each province is going to have its own economic profile. And these are really, I'm a little partial, right? But these are really exciting. So I think a narrative that we're hearing is that a lot of our firms are undergoing some credit tightening now, and actually adjusting client strategy to more so grow existing accounts and some in light of some challenging, economic client landscapes ahead. And I think clients are saying more now that they're doing more due diligence and more, really the more data, the better. And so as we're starting to look here at the provincial level, things like GDP, establishments, unemployment, population, and then just some more qualitative analysis actually about the province. And this is something a little new in our strategy to start to offer some of these different factors. So we've shifted a little bit to actually now cover more hot topics that you might see in the news, or different economic journals. So here we're looking at things like climate, and fiscal stability and new job growth. So, we're not a news provider. We don't have ESG data yet, but to start to really answer questions that we're hearing from the market and things that people, care about in this section here. And then we're looking at things like GDP in Alberta, again, where you can compare similarly to previous charts. You can download these charts and population growth. Now I'm jumping over here to this industry and sector statistics section, which is an area that I'm particularly, I know I'm very excited about all this, but this section in particular is pretty useful, I think, because it's kind of new information than what you might have seen previously from IBISWorld, for those of you that may be familiar with us from before. And so now we're actually offering information at the 2-digit level of the NAICS, and even, of course, now looking at that provincial level. So we haven't really offered 2-digit level information in Canada before. And I think that's going to be really helpful when you're looking at credit risk analysis, right? In those areas, you might not be drilling down to the 5-digit level of the NAICS, which is what we've traditionally reported on in Canada. So here we can look at things like wholesale trade, retail trade, and really how the province is made up by GDP or by employment as well. And now moving into this section where you can start to find, industry leaders and laggards. It's a little bit of tongue tie there. But most, firms that we speak with are, looking to grow their C&I portfolio, even in light of economic conditions. And maybe it's, like I said, growing existing accounts. And so as you're starting to develop different growth targets, this information would have been previously offered in our Wizard tool at the national level, but now we're incorporating it actually into these reports here so that you can actually start to filter by revenue or establishments or employments to come up with targeted lists of industries that fit those level and trend criteria. So
and this really ties back to the prospecting stuff we were talking about too, where we've heard this from Canadian clients, but also, in feedback from kind of a sister product we've rolled out at the state level in the U.S., which is, because, a lot of these institutions that we work with, have a mandate to grow their commercial lending, they want to find the industries that I guess are the best fit for their bank, depending on what their risk appetite is, depending on what their geography is, and being able to give relationship managers a list of industries that will be concentrated in a particular province or local market, and then say, hey, we know these other things about the industry, like what its risk score is currently, what its average profit margins is, how much the industry is growing its revenue, as Kelsey was just talking about. It does all of a sudden become much easier to find customers that are going to be a good fit for your institution if you're working from a list of just 10 to 20 industries are going to be concentrating your market versus just saying, okay, we're going to go and just try to work with any and all businesses in our market.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and I think even to that point, the fact that you can start to, filter in these areas, right? So rather than perhaps like hearing different rumors, around what are some industries to look at, these are raw numbers and research to actually back up your strategy right at your fingertips here. And then, to Matt's point, like you may come here and find those industries in that prospecting, right? In the first P of that slide that he showed earlier. And then you might go to a different resource at the firm and maybe find a company name, and then you come back to IBISWorld to start to cater your message when you're really reaching out to those new markets and new areas. And even something that I've heard from clients too is that you might want to look at some of these fastest growing industries for prospecting, but on the other end of that, start to understand industries that might be declining. So then taking a look into your portfolio to say, what concentrations do we have? What tightening or different, measures might we need to take in these different areas?
And Kelsey, these are all hyperlinked too, I believe. So if say you're looking at the Alberta economic profile and you want to jump into any of these reports, whether it's coffee and tea production or semiconductor manufacturing, whatever it is, you can actually jump to those reports and learn more about those industries as a whole, right from this list of growing or declining industries within the provincial economic profile that we're looking at.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. And, I think this kind of final section that I'm going to show here of the economic profile is where we start to look at some things like corporate tax rate and, unemployment rate, which speaks to more recent disruptions we're seeing in the labor market, and understanding that wages are a key area for banks to understand. And scrolling down here a little bit more, you might know your province really well, but if you're working in a less familiar area, right, being aware of who those major companies are can be a great reminder. And we obviously can provide value in CRE and owner-occupied, real estate loans. And so looking here to kind of find some different statistics, again, at that provincial level can be so valuable. And just to kind of close up my portion here, there's an article from the American Banker, which kind of caught my eye. And obviously we're speaking to Canadians, but based on some of my conversations, I think these trends are probably similar in Canada. And, looking here, that the second leading cause for customers switching banks is their previous bank's lack of knowledge about their business and industry. And that's actually up from 2 years ago. So I think this is a real challenge, right, that banks are facing now. But I choose to see it as an opportunity, and this is, pain point in the market that IBISWorld can really create value with. And banking is such a competitive industry, right? And so IBISWorld in general, and certainly these insights can be a big differentiation factor for you. And so, the growing trend around being a trusted advisor and developing a more consultative approach and adding value-added information is a huge way that we can help. And essentially spending just a couple minutes before, before a meeting to get an overview, or to get 2 more minutes to get a little bit more in-depth information can be helpful for frontline staff, underwriters, portfolio managers to help kind of strengthen those longer-term customer relationships. So again, happy to show this to you all today. I hope it was valuable. I think we have a little bit more, but thank you so much for listening. So I'll pass it back over to Matt now.
Yeah, thanks, Kelsey. I just want to mention again that if you have any feedback regarding what Kelsey just showed us here, please email us at commercial-banking@ibisworld.com. We'd love to hear from you, things that you like about the product, suggestions that you have about the product. This was something that we've had in the making for quite a while, to get this level of information to roll out 4,000 plus different provincial reports, but it's all based on the questions that we've got in the past. People saying that they really have a need for national industry averages, but that having stuff at the provincial and local level could be even more helpful. So we're really trying to answer the market here. I'll answer a couple questions that we did get, but while we take a look at those, I do want to give everyone an opportunity to take advantage of the free trial that we mentioned earlier. So if you are interested in trialing the new provincial product, just respond yes to that, and Kelsey or your IBISWorld relationship manager will reach out to provide you with that free trial. As far as questions that we got during the presentation, Kelsey, I'm going to send this one to you. So we had someone ask, you mentioned government sources. Where is IBISWorld getting this provincial information from? Can we speak to that for a second? I'm sure folks are curious about, where is this data coming from in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely. So the short answer is Statistics Canada. They are our main source for our national level information, and the same is true for this provincial information as well. So we've been able to really work and partner with them to access deeper levels of data, and then using IBISWorld's own internal quantitative methods and statistical algorithms, we are able to kind of comprehensively compile this information now.
Great, yeah, thank you. Another thing that came up was we had someone ask, will we find common industry ratio benchmarks here as well? With some acronyms, I believe working capital, debt to equity, EBITDA. In the provincial level, it's a lot of information on revenue and employment and establishments within the province or local geographies, but we do have information that provides some of the financial ratios mentioned for our national level reports within Canada. So Kelsey, if you want to talk a little bit about that, or maybe even I can give you the screen back if you want to talk a little bit about the financial ratios.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to jump into
a little bit separate from the provincial stuff, but I think something that we've gotten a lot of questions about nonetheless. Before we do that, I'm just going to close out the poll here. It looks like everyone was able to respond. So Kelsey should be able to give you the screen again now. Let's see here. Oh, there you go.
Technology flipping back and forth. we got it. Awesome. So yeah, this actually is I'm not surprised to get this question. It is something I've heard a lot, right? Of getting more local information is fantastic, and now what about the fact that a lot of the customers that I might work with could be, smaller players in the market. So for some people might not be aware of this, but we also offer Canadian financial ratios actually. And so this is just kind of what they look like in our national report. So they are reported at the national level, just based on data availability. But we actually break them down by revenue segment. And you'll see these quartiles here, which are actually based on revenue size, not performance that you might see with other quartiles. So this is actually really small business data, and that's how a lot of my clients have defined this for me. And, this is what they've shared with me. And so we cover about 50 of the most common ratios here. So sales and working capital, current ratio, debt to equity, some asset and liability ratios again. So this is something that I think has kind of naturally started to marry a bit with the provincial data to be able to get more local information and then more drilled down sort of small business effectively data.
Yeah, and I would just say if anyone is interested in trialing the new provincial product and you responded yes to that poll just now, we can certainly, if you're not already using our financial ratios, open up that part of our database for you to use for a little bit as well and get a feel for where it fits into your process. But the answer is yes, we do have some of those financial ratios. That information is not available at the provincial level yet. We hope that down the road that's potentially possible, but we do have those figures broken out the way that Kelsey just mentioned. I think we have time to address just one more question, but again, if we didn't get to your question, be on the lookout for an email response from your relationship manager. But Kelsey, the last question we got was, how often is the data updated, annually or quarterly?
Yeah, well, another great question. Happy to answer. So the provincial and national reports in Canada are updated about annually. We do offer, however, risk reports, which many folks have access to, which are updated monthly. So generally that annual basis for the majority of our reporting, but those risk reports do have a more frequent flip.
Great. Well, this is something that I think we've gotten already some great feedback on, but I think something that's applicable to both the frontline staff at these financial institutions that we work with, that are more on the business development side and just want to better understand customer industries, what industries they should be prospecting in, how can they, take an extra 5 minutes before a meeting or before a pitch to just, better understand what's keeping a particular industry operator up at night, what pain points might they be feeling because of what's going on in their industry. And then also on the underwriting side of things, just be able to better benchmark your clients against those industry averages, not just at the national scale, but at the provincial level as well. So we're looking forward to any feedback that folks have. Again, that's commercial-banking@ibisworld.com. We'll answer any other questions. And if you did say that you'd like to trial the new provincial product, much like any questions that were asked, your relationship manager will 100% be following up with you to make sure that you get set up with some access for a little while. So we appreciate everyone joining us here today. Like I said, we want to keep it to a tight 30 minutes. If any questions pop up down the road that you didn't get a chance to ask today, please drop them in that feedback email as well. But we appreciate everyone joining us, and we look forward to the next webinar. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Cheers.